At some point, most people learn how to play the game. The routines, the expectations, the quiet rules that shape how life is supposed to look. Career paths, social milestones, constant connectivity, the pressure to stay relevant. For many, this becomes normal. But there are others who step back from it. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that feels almost invisible. They don't seem interested in keeping up. They don't chase what everyone else is chasing. And over time, it starts to look like they simply don't care about modern society. But psychologically, that interpretation is often too shallow. There's a certain kind of person who doesn't reject society outright. They just disengage from parts of it that don't feel meaningful. They may still participate where necessary, but there is a noticeable distance. Trends don't pull them in. Social validation doesn't hold the same weight. The constant flow of information feels more like noise than value. And that shift in perception changes everything, because once something loses its perceived importance, the motivation to engage with it disappears. At its core, this behavior is closely tied to value filtering. Modern society presents an overwhelming number of signals: what to pursue, what to buy, what to believe, how to present yourself. For most people, at least some of these signals are internalized. But individuals who appear to not care tend to process these signals differently. They filter more aggressively. Instead of absorbing what is presented, they evaluate it. And if it doesn't align with their internal framework, they discard it without much hesitation. This creates a strong sense of psychological independence. Their decisions are less influenced by collective momentum and more by internal criteria. This does not mean they are always correct. It means their reference point is different. They are not constantly adjusting based on external trends. They move according to what makes sense to them, even if that path looks unconventional. Another important factor is reduced reliance on social validation. Much of modern behavior is reinforced through feedback, likes, recognition, status, approval. People who disengage from this system are less dependent on that feedback loop. Their sense of identity is not built primarily through external acknowledgement. As a result, they are less motivated to participate in systems designed to provide that acknowledgement. There is also a connection to cognitive overload. Modern environments are dense with information. Constant updates, notifications, opinions, and demands create a continuous stream of input. For some individuals, this becomes overwhelming, not in an obvious, chaotic way, but in a subtle sense of mental saturation. Disengaging becomes a form of regulation. By stepping back, they reduce noise and regain clarity. This often leads to a preference for simplicity. Not necessarily minimalism in a visual sense, but simplicity in structure. Fewer commitments, fewer inputs, fewer variables to manage. This allows for more focused attention and a more stable internal state. Complexity is not avoided entirely. It is managed selectively. Another psychological trait involved is a different relationship with time. Modern society tends to accelerate everything: communication, expectations, progress. People who disengage often resist this acceleration. They move at a pace that feels sustainable rather than reactive. This can appear slow from the outside, but internally it creates consistency. Their actions are less driven by urgency and more by intention. There is also a subtle shift in how success is defined. Traditional markers, status, income, visibility, may hold less importance. Instead, success becomes more internal. It may be defined by autonomy, clarity, or alignment with personal values. This redefinition reduces the need to compete within conventional systems. If the goal is different, the path naturally changes. Past experiences can also shape this behavior. Repeated exposure to systems that feel inconsistent, performative, or misaligned can lead to disengagement. When the individual no longer trusts the structure, they stop investing in it. This is not always a conscious rejection. It is a gradual withdrawal of attention. Another key factor is tolerance for solitude. Disengaging from certain aspects of society often reduces social interaction. People who are comfortable with this tend to have a stable internal environment. They do not rely on constant interaction to maintain a sense of self. This allows them to step back without feeling disconnected. There is also a cognitive aspect related to pattern recognition. Individuals who question societal norms often notice inconsistencies or inefficiencies within those systems. They see patterns that others may overlook. This does not automatically lead to rejection, but it creates distance. Once you see the structure behind something, it becomes harder to engage with it uncritically. Interestingly, this behavior is sometimes misinterpreted as apathy. But in many cases, it is not a lack of care, it is selective care. These individuals may care deeply about specific areas, ideas, relationships, personal growth, but not about the broader system that others prioritize. Their attention is not absent, it is redirected. There is also a relationship with control. By disengaging from external systems, individuals regain control over their own attention and behavior. They are less reactive to external demands and more intentional in their actions. This creates a sense of autonomy that can be difficult to achieve within highly structured environments. However, this pattern is not without complexity. Complete disengagement can limit exposure to opportunities, information, and collaboration. While filtering is useful, overfiltering can reduce perspective. Balance becomes important, knowing what to disengage from and what to engage with. There is also a social cost. Not participating in widely accepted norms can create distance from others. Conversations, interests, and priorities may not align. This can lead to misunderstanding or exclusion. Navigating this requires a level of self-awareness and adaptability. Another challenge is internal justification. When someone operates outside of common systems, they often need to define their own structure. Without external benchmarks, progress becomes self-defined. This can be freeing, but it also requires clarity. Without it, the absence of structure can lead to stagnation rather than intentional living. From a psychological perspective, this behavior reflects a shift from external to internal orientation. The individual moves from reacting to the environment to selecting from it. This increases autonomy, but also increases responsibility. Decisions are no longer guided by default systems. They are guided by personal judgment. Over time, this creates a more stable sense of identity. When identity is not constantly adjusted based on external trends, it becomes more consistent. This does not mean it does not change. It means change is intentional rather than reactive. There is also a deeper layer related to meaning. People who disengage from modern societal patterns often seek meaning in different ways. Instead of finding it in status or visibility, they look for it in understanding, experience, or personal alignment. This shifts the focus from external achievement to internal coherence. Ultimately, people who appear to not care about modern society are not necessarily disconnected. They are selective. They are choosing what to engage with and what to ignore. They are filtering a system that was never designed to be filtered easily. And once you understand that, their behavior stops looking like indifference. It starts looking like control. Because not caring about everything is not the same as caring about nothing. Sometimes it's the result of deciding, very carefully, what is actually worth your attention.